at the State Department. Thank you so much. Let's bring in Heritage Foundation Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs. He is retired Lieutenant Colonel Dakota Wood. Colonel, numerous polls show the American voters do not want a war in the Middle East. Why are the tensions being manipulated and escalated by headlines that the president is now calling fake news?
Well, I mean, you have this ongoing tension between Iran and the United States over sanctions that stem from the Iran nuclear agreement. So there's a very hard push by the United States to restrict the flow of capital or cash, money, and oil sales into Iran to try to get it back to the negotiating table so that we can constrict their nuclear program. And obviously Iran doesn't like that. And so you see this friction that's mounting between the two countries.
Is the situation made more combustible by officials saying the U.S. will not differentiate between attacks from Iran and Iran proxy groups like Hezbollah?
Well, it's had decades of supporting terror groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and other factions stretching from Iraq down through Syria into Jordan, even Lebanon, and attacks on Israel. So this is nothing new. And, you know, if you have this state sponsor of these terrorist groups, they're providing the weapons, the material, the technicians, the support, and the political cover, so they should be held accountable.
Under the Obama administration, Iran gained access to almost $100 billion. Yeah. After it was that money was released from sanctions in 2015, Iran was saying it's money. Did Iran use that money to bankroll Syria's dictator Bashar al-Assad, also the Houthi rebels in Yemen and Hezbollah?
Well, I don't know about Assad himself, but certainly the factions, Shia-backed, Iranian-backed militias in Iraq, the Houthi rebels, that rebellion that's going on, that's pitted this proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and absolutely Hamas and Hezbollah. So this is all very clear. It's open source. It's part of the record. Several countries have validated this, and it shouldn't come as a surprise that this is a point of contention with the Trump administration.
Okay, we've got Democrats. They're confused over the U.S. policy here. Let's watch.
What we need is a diplomatic surge because if Iran is reeling from all of the consequences of the sanctions that the Trump administration has reimposed, the purpose of sanctions is not a means to an end. It's a means to get Iran back to the negotiating table.
Democrat on the Foreign Relations Committee have requested classified briefings so that we can get up to speed on the president's strategy.
Your take on that, sir?
Well, the strategy, certainly the objective is to get them to talk. But what we're seeing in the case of Iran, Maduro in Venezuela, Kim Jong-un in North Korea is they want pressure taken off before they'll have these negotiations. And clearly, when pressure hasn't been applied, they have no interest in changing their behavior. So this full court press, maximum pressure applied to each of these regimes is absolutely the way to go. And I think the president has the right approach. It's very clear. He's articulated this a number of times. I'm not really sure why the opposition there in Congress is confused as to what the policy is.
Colonel, Iran is one of the world's worst human rights abusers. We've seen it from watchdog groups from around the world. They keep saying that. Do you feel that D.C. doesn't pay enough attention to the human rights abuses coming out of Iran?
Well, it's a central value for the United States and for a lot of Western liberal democracies of human rights. I mean, you know, we always articulate that, even during the height of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. But sometimes there are other issues like nuclear capabilities, support to terrorism, that really take prominence in these discussions. So it depends on the situation and the state you're working with, whether it's North Korea, Iran, what have you, whether you lead with human rights or it's one of these background issues until you can resolve a more lethal kinetic problem that you're dealing with up front.
Colonel Wood, thank you so much, and thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Come back soon. We are